Hi everyone, it's Kino here. Welcome to this Ashtanga tune-up series. Today we're going to take a look at Padangustasana. This is a standing forward fold that officially begins the standing series, and this kind of sets up the foundation of how your forward fold is going to kind of express itself throughout the practice. There's many different ways you can approach this, and it may vary from day to day in your practice. So let's take a look at it. Come up onto your squatting position on the hands and knees, and I want you to bend your knees and place your chest on your thighs. So many people have a hard time straightening their legs, and if you bend the knees, then you can get a good pivot into the hip joints, but you fail to stretch the back of the legs. So let's just work on that for a moment. If this is difficult for you, this is kind of an interesting way to enter the asana. We can slowly try to straighten the legs. Now, sometimes what will happen, however, is that when you try to straighten the legs, they won't straighten. So you could enter the asana with the bent knees and try to straighten them over time, or you could inhale, prepare with straight legs, drawing the navel in, and then exhale, fold. And maybe you don't get as close with the hip joints, but you'll feel your hamstrings and the back of the legs are releasing. Both of these ways are quite good to work in the asana. Here are some things to avoid when you're working with Padangustasana. Number one, if your leg, the front of the thigh, is really soft and you start to fold forward, you're going to put a lot of pressure on the back of the knees, you're going to put a lot of pressure on the ankles, and then this won't support your forward fold. So we want to think about activating the quadriceps. When the quadriceps are activated, then this gives you support to be able to really work your forward fold. Now, number two, when we're thinking about Padangustasana, many people will have their weight on their heels, so they just kind of hang back there. Weight in the heels, quadriceps soft, and then just hanging down. In Ashtanga yoga, we want to work our forward fold. So let's actually flip that around. So again, quadriceps active. Then shift the weight forward. Then fold the ribs in so that we can activate the forward fold. And this is kind of how we work the body in Padangustasana. Next, watch the shoulders for a moment. If you squeeze and pull with the shoulders, it almost like lifts the shoulder girdle off of the body. Instead, draw the shoulder blades down the back, making space around the spinal axis and kind of root that work. And we're not actually pulling with our arms, we're relaxing the neck and letting the work of the forward fold happen underneath the collarbone, in the torso, in the hips, and in the legs. And then let's think about what the work of forward fold is, right? So you're working your forward folds and you're like, gosh, I wish I could go deeper. We have to trust that over time, through deep breathing and deep inner connection with the body, your flexibility will improve. So in your forward fold, look for three key components. You're looking at stretching the back of the leg, you're working flexion in the front of the hip, and releasing the back muscles. So if you are taking your Padangustasana posture and your back is a little bit rounded like this, you're holding onto your toes, pulling will not get you into the asana. Instead, we want to think about activating your quadriceps, bending or moving and pivoting inside of the pelvis. So we go from a round pelvis position or a tucked pelvis position to a rotated pelvis position. The navel draws in. Once the lower ribs touch the thighs, at that moment we draw the rib cage in with the strength of the front body, softening the shoulders but aligning from the shoulder blades, relaxing the neck, and then pivoting forward. We want to pivot right to that point where you feel like, ooh, maybe that's a little too much. You'll feel weight pouring into the balls of the big toes and a little bit of pressure on the fingers, and that's good. Inhale, we straighten the arms. Exhale there. Now we're going to come up to standing. So we release and inhale all the way up to standing. Okay. When we come up to standing and enter the asana from standing, we want to make sure that you're not using your back bend to enter your forward bend. So if you prepare by sticking your butt out and then you fold forward, you're going to be using your back muscles instead of the front body. So something that you can practice that will improve your Padangustasana is to lift the rib cage away from the hips, find your front body strength, and then practice activating the core of the body to roll forward and then activating the core of the body to roll up. Let's just kind of try that a few times. We can activate the quadriceps. The core of the body is kind of the driver of the movement. Exhale, we pivot and forward fold. Inhale, we squeeze the front body and bring it up. Let's do two more times. Exhale, we pivot from the strength of the front body. Inhale, we pivot. and come up. One more time like that. It's all from the lower abdominals. We draw down. We're controlling the movement of the pelvis. We come up. Good. Your head is attached to the torso. So, I know it might be news to you, but the head, since it's attached to the torso, wants to follow the line of the torso. So many students in Padangustasana will pivot their heads up and fold forward. Or when they look up, they squeeze the back of the neck and come up like this. And then what will happen is you get really dizzy quite often. Instead, you want that movement of forward fold and come back up to standing to be smooth, fluid, and connected to the breath. So when you fold forward, we reach down, clasping lightly the big toes. Inhale, we straighten, and then exhale, pivot and fold. Finding all those key points, the quadriceps, the pivot, the rib cage, the slight shift forward, then the slight shift back, we straighten the arms. Exhale here. Even though we move the ribs away from the hips, we're gazing down the bridge of the nose, slightly forward, but not, you don't want to look up here. We just kind of gently shift the gaze forward. You're seeing the horizon with your peripheral vision. And then exhale there. Activate the front body. Gently release. Slowly find the way all the way up to standing and samastitihi. How you articulate this forward fold really just establishes so much. It will prepare you for your entries and exits into handstand and other inversions, and it'll really just set up the whole mechanics and architecture of forward fold for the whole practice. So take this technique, continue to apply it. Remember, don't force, have faith that flexibility is coming, and keep that inspiration to keep practicing.